I went to my sister's place, opened the door, and went inside the house to find my sister was already up, busy in the kitchen. "Essie, you are here." My sister came out of the kitchen and was happy to see me, her little sister. "Have you eaten? I'm making a pot of porridge, do you want a cup?" she asked with a lot of excitement. I replied with a smile. "I'm good. I had breakfast. Have you started cooking?" "You don't have to if you haven't because I brought you and the kids breakfast." My sister said. "Not yet. Sonny had a fever last night. I didn't sleep much the whole night, so I got up late. Your brother-in-law had to get breakfast from the shop. He wasn't happy about it. He accused me of doing nothing all day and couldn't have made his breakfast. Since all I did was look after the kids." My sister was hurt. I was furious for her sake. "Is my brother-in-law still insisting on splitting the bills after I moved out?" I asked. My sister took a seat on the sofa and unwrapped the food. She digs in and then said, "He is still insisting on splitting the expenses. He said that all I do is spend money rather than earn my keep. He mentioned that I have no idea the pressure he is under. As part of the family, I should contribute to the household expenses." Before handing in her resignation letter, my sister worked her way up to the financial chief position. She was paid handsomely. She gave up a lot for love and married but received hate from her in-laws in return. My sister only spent her money on the home. The clothes she bought were from the money I used to give her. Shopping only came once in a while and buying things like cosmetics were less frequent than new clothes. After a long chat with my sister, she then asked me, "When is your husband coming from his trip?" "It will be a while. He can be busy since he is working in a major corporation." I replied. My sister inquired about my life at my new home in detail. She was able to relax once she was sure I was doing well. Now that I had spent some time with my sister and my nephew, it was time to visit my friend at her shop. I requested a tax and while in it, I reflected on my sister's life full of issues. I distracted the driver with a question about why some men mistreat their wives and keep complaining about the bills, while they are the ones who promised to always provide for their families. The taxi driver failed to pay attention to his surroundings while listening to me and nearly rammed into a car. He swerved to the side and narrowly missed the car. At the same time, he hit the brakes. The other car also came to a screeching halt. I glanced at the car. It was a Rolls-Royce, a luxury sedan. Behind the Rolls-Royce, a row of identical vehicles. The people in those cars must be the bodyguards of the person in the luxury sedan. Since Wilton was a metropolis, luxury sedans were not a rare sight. I made a gesture of apology to the driver before the taxi started and slipped away. The driver of the luxury sedan turned his head over to the man in grey in the backseat. "Mr. Shaw, your miss is in that taxi." Joshua's face fell as he witnessed a taxi that I was in almost knocked onto his car. He murmured to himself, "This is risky to be in a taxi with an absent-minded motorist." Joshua had no intention to say or do anything about it. Too scared to say anything, his driver started the car. I had no idea that we nearly ran into my man's car. Finally, I made it to my friend's shop. Jane had ordered breakfast after she was done setting the shop display. She was enjoying breakfast when I entered and with a smile, she asked, "Have you eaten?" "Yeah," I replied. Jane went on to finish the most important meal of the day and then informed me that she brought some desserts for me. I sat down before pulling over the bag containing the dessert. "You can't go wrong with desserts. I saw a Rolls-Royce on my way here," I said. Jane replied, "I see. It's not strange to sport a Rolls-Royce in Wilton, but it's not a common sight. Did you see who was in the car? It is just like in the books, a hot and single CEO." I stared at Jane without a word. Jane chuckled. "The leading man has to be society's elite even if he isn't a CEO." Jane busted into laughter, and then said, "That reminds me. Are you free tonight, Esther? You know I'm either at work or at home." "Right, what's the matter?" I had a simple life as it only revolved around working and caring for my sister's kids. Jane told me, "There is a dinner party tonight. It's a gathering of high society. I got an invite. Do you want to come along and have a peek into their world?" I turned down the offer and said, "I don't run in the same circle as them. I'm not interested." Although I earned quite a bit, the upper crust was beyond my reach. I had no intention to elbow my way into the community, nor did I have the means to. To be frank, I could be mistaken as the server if someone on my social status were to attend such a retired dinner party. Jane jumped in. My friend, I don't want to go either, but my mum begged my Aunt Rachel for an invite. She told me I can bring a +1, so I thought of taking you with me. Esther, Esther, please come with me to see what it's like. Wait, no, I want you there to be my rock. I don't want my mum to nag at me. Jane's aunt happened to marry a rich and powerful family. It had been a few tough decades, but it finally worked out for the aunt as she was now rubbing shoulders with the upper class. Jane's mother, Mrs. Sam, took pride in her daughter's pretty face, and marrying her off could be the ticket to a higher social class. Jane's aunt doted on her and believed that her niece had just only what it took to bag a wealthy and influential bachelor. Since Jane's mother asked her daughter why she was delaying marrying, the aunt was happy to make it happen. Is your mother pressuring you again to get married? I asked Jane. She replied, all mothers are the same, they can't wait to kick their daughters out and make them another man's problems once their daughter turns 18. I can make my own money and be financially independent. I don't need a man to enjoy a good life. I think one shouldn't marry out of their social class. I don't want to marry up. Although my aunt is mingling well with the circle, it took her decades to get there, and she faced a lot of difficulties when she got married to her husband. She used to cry to my mum when she visited back then. She knows what it's like. Jane was all for freedom and not being bound by the upper crust's unwritten rules. Jane lifted her blow and said, come on Esther, just for tonight. We will be in this together. We get to see how the top 1% lives. My aunt said there will be a lot of young eligible bachelors attending tonight. They are this city's finest and richest. We can check the scene out even if we are not there to snag a man. It's a dinner party, so there is going to be lots of good food. Me, myself, and Esther, I was not one to say no to food, and so was Jane. We both love food. It was that common interest that brought us together. It took an hour of Jane convincing me before I gave in to her request. I called my sister and asked her how my nephew was. She informed me that he was seen by the doctor and the fever was only a case of the sniffles, and hearing that put me at ease. Then I told her about attending a dinner party with Jane. Her response was, it's nice even if it's just for the experience. Of course you could make some friends from that circle. My sister was in favor of us attending the party but was not for any other reason than to witness the other side of the world. Jane closed the shop right after lunch to prepare for the dinner party. She dragged me to her home to put on some fancy dress and slap some makeup on. Since Jane's family adored me, they had no problem with Jane tagging me along to the dinner party. I was married anyway, so there was no concern I would steal the limelight from Jane. Just after 6 in the evening, a sedan arranged by Jane's aunt rolled into Sam's family driveway. Have fun. Seeing us at the door, Jane's mother said to me, Esther, help me keep an eye on Jane, don't let her stuff her face, get her to socialize with the young bachelors. Then she turned to her daughter, Jane, your aunt has done a lot for you, don't let her down. I told Mrs. Sam, don't worry, I will help you keep an eye on Jane so she doesn't wander off to the buffet. I said this because I knew we would hang out at the buffet together. Mrs. Sam was fond of me because I was a sensible and independent person. Had it not been for her son being a little bit younger than me, Mrs. Sam would have played matchmaker to us. But now it was regrettable that I was taken. There were a lot of youngsters in Sam's family, and I could have picked any one of them if I wanted to walk down the aisle. But it was what it was. There was no point talking about it since it was not like Mrs. Sam's regret could change anything. With Jane's mother urging us to hurry up, Jane dolled up in glamorous makeup, a white gown, and jewelry. She dragged me into the sedan. I did not bother to dress up since I was already married and was acting as a +1. I wore my usual clothes and put on natural makeup. Nevertheless, my natural beauty still shone through despite my plain attire. The dinner party was held at Wilton Hotel, a place I have never had a chance to step in. The Wilton Hotel was one of the finest hotels in the city. Some said it was a 7-star hotel, but I had no idea if that was true because it was not the news I would follow. Jane's aunt arrived at the hotel before us and exchanged greetings with her friends. She told her children to enter the hotel while she stayed at the door to wait for Jane and I.